Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a highly practical toolkit designed to take those big, abstract concepts and transform them into really dynamic, memorable learning experiences for your students. I am absolutely thrilled to share these insights with you because, well, as educators, you already know our biggest hurdle isn't just delivering information, it's making sure that information actually sticks. So we're pulling from a fantastic mix of educational resources today to build out a creative toolkit you can take straight into your classroom.
Look, if you have ever stood in front of a room full of distracted kids while reading straight from a textbook, you know exactly why we need this today. Honestly, there's just nothing quite as mind-numbing as hearing a lesson delivered in a flat, monotone voice. The result is always the same, right? You get those glazed-over expressions, the restless fidgeting, and that low-level hum of students whispering to their neighbors. Well, we're going to fix that.
So here is our game plan for today. First up, cultivating a growth mindset. Then we'll look at building everyday resilience. Third, we're going to explore the magic of storytelling. And finally, we'll wrap up with puppets and performance. Let's jump right in.
All right, section 1, cultivating a growth mindset. This first tool focuses entirely on how kids perceive their own abilities, which is without a doubt the absolute foundation of learning. Before a child can absorb a math lesson or write a creative story, they have to actually believe their brain is capable of doing it.
Now, the NEDS Mindset Mission Program gives us this brilliantly clear contrast between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. They call a fixed mindset brain freeze. This is when a student believes their abilities are basically set in stone, so the second they make a mistake, they just give up. It's a total shutdown. But a growth mindset, that's the go brain. This teaches kids that their smarts can actually grow when challenged. So instead of a frustrated, I can't do that, they unlock this incredible power of saying, I can't do that yet.
To help kids wrap their heads around this, we can borrow an analogy based on 3 decades of research from Stanford professor Carol Dweck. We just compare the brain to a plant. You know, just like a tiny seed needs dirt, water, and sunshine to build strong roots and eventually bloom, the brain needs new challenges to grow. The more new things you try, and crucially, the more mistakes you learn from, the more your brain cells grow. It gives your students a really tangible, visual way to understand what's happening inside their own heads.
Moving right along to section 2, building everyday resilience. Because cultivating a growth mindset is fantastic, but how do we actually practice it when things go wrong in the real world?
To put this into practice, there's this great tool called the Resilience Game from Mentally Healthy Schools. Children are presented with everyday, relatable scenarios. Think about it. What happens if Anya scores a really low mark on her times table test? Or what if Greg is standing all alone on the playground because his best friend is out sick? The kids are given specific choices on how to react to these very real, stressful situations.
The mechanics here are wonderfully simple, but honestly, so effective. A child rolls a dice, reads the scenario, and then makes a choice. If they pick the most resilient answer, like choosing to practice harder instead of just quitting, they move forward 2 spaces. If they pick a less resilient answer, they stay exactly where they are. By talking through why certain choices move them forward, children are practically developing emotional processing skills they can apply immediately to their own lives. They learn that resilience is quite literally a choice that propels you forward.
Okay, section 3, the magic of storytelling. Let's look at how we can weave these life skills directly into the curriculum using ancient stories to capture their attention.
The really crucial takeaway here is the universal power of fables. On one hand, you have the Indian Panchatantra, originally written in Sanskrit by Vishnu Sharma to teach royal sons about governance and diplomacy. And on the other, you have the ancient Greek Aesop's fables, which focus on human folly and vices. They come from completely different cultures, but both use animal personification to share timeless wisdom. Think about it. Animals aren't bound by human social classes. So a story about a fast hare and a slow tortoise, or a clever rabbit tricking a lion, perfectly bridges that gap between fantasy and reality. It helps kids make sense of complex human behavior in a totally safe, approachable way.
But of course, to deliver these fables without putting your class to sleep, you have to bring them to life. Drawing from Big Start's assemblies, here are 5 rapid-fire ideas to do just that. First, learn the story inside out, so you aren't just staring at a page. Second, use distinct character voices. And hey, slow down to add some tension. Third, produce a relevant prop, like a pocket watch, to ground the fantasy in reality. Fourth, use your audience. Have them shout a recurring phrase like, "Are we nearly there yet?" whenever you mention a long journey. And fifth, try ad hoc drama. Just pull kids up to act out the parts on the fly. It's guaranteed to keep them hanging on your every word.
And that brings us to our final act, section 4, puppets and performance. This is where we look at how to physically bring these narratives to life on stage, tying all our tools together. Now, if you've ever tried to organize kids on a stage, you know it can be a bit of a nightmare. Knowing basic stage directions is an absolute lifesaver. As one ESL drama instructor points out, the golden rule here is to always teach children that stage left and stage right are from their perspective as the actor, not yours as the director. And to keep it fun, use theatrical cues. If you shout the cue word Shakespeare, the kids have to immediately strike a dramatic pose and shout, "To be or not to be." It takes chaotic stage positioning and turns it into a highly structured, engaging game.
But what about the shy students? Well, to really remove the pressure of performing, you can introduce puppets. Puppetry is this beautiful ancient art form dating all the way back to Chinese shadow figures. Educational puppeteer Steve Abrams notes that puppets allow children to project complex emotions safely through an inanimate object. It takes the bright spotlight off the child and puts it entirely onto the character, which completely frees up their imagination.
So when you're helping a student embody a puppet character, the secret is to interview the puppet as if it's a real, living visitor from another world. Ask it non-judgmental questions. Do you have a name yet? Or how are you feeling today? And this is crucial. Always compliment its appearance. In the world of puppetry, there's no such thing as ugly. Every character accepts how they look as normal and positive. It beautifully reinforces the growth mindset and resilience we talked about earlier, building a child's self-confidence right alongside their storytelling skills.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a profound thought from sci-fi writer Ursula Le Guin. It's a perfect reminder of why this creative toolkit matters so much. She said that while some great societies didn't use the wheel, there are no societies that did not tell stories. We are, at our core, a story-formed people. So the question I leave you with today is this. How will you use stories, mindset games, and performances to shape, inspire, and completely captivate the next generation in your classroom? Thank you so much for joining me, and I absolutely can't wait to see how you bring this toolkit to life.